And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, at the News Forum with our special guest, Alex Whalen. He is an analyst at the Fraser Institute. Alex, we were just talking about some of the factors that contribute to the decline in living standards relative to other countries, and I guess in absolute terms here in Canada. And just got through, obviously, what's happening in the energy sector and some of these other things, over-regulation and so on. Let's talk a little bit about government fiscal policy, i.e. spending. You're saying that in order to arrest this trend in lower gross domestic product per person, each person, our living standard, to use the vernacular, we do have to tackle government spending. Could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Absolutely. Government has been growing in Canada across the country, and we focused a lot on federal policy so far, and certainly federal policy when it comes to taxes and spending has been very damaging in recent years. But a lot of provincial governments are also running a very loose fiscal policy with ongoing deficits and rising debt. And so what we see in the big picture is the footprint of government expanding in Canada.
Right.
In the most recent year of available data, government spending in Canada at all levels accounted for 40.5% of GDP. That's before you account for the impact of regulations, and that number has been trending upward over time. It's really important to remember that level of government spending in the economy is a significant headwind on growth. So economic research suggests that the optimal size of government, if you're looking to maximize growth, is 26 to 30% of GDP. So the federal government and virtually all provincial governments are significantly above that level, and that's harming our growth.
So really, do you get any sense in terms of the rhetoric of the federal government or recent activity that they belatedly recognize that this is an issue or a problem, or is it there's no difference in spending levels or tackling this issue?
I don't get any sense that the current federal government is planning on a change in fiscal policy. I mean, they've been quite consistent throughout their tenure. They do occasionally make noises about restraining their fiscal policy, but when you look at their actions, they consistently outspend their projections. On a per-person inflation-adjusted basis, spending is at an all-time high. And so I think the current federal policy when it comes to spending is quite unrestrained, and I don't see any reason that will change with the current government.
And that has an impact on tax policy too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I think it's worth stating that Canada is seriously uncompetitive on tax policy, and particularly at the upper end when it comes to the type of top talent that you need to drive growth in an economy, innovators, entrepreneurs, also top performers in fields like healthcare. So our tax policy is a concern, and taxes are likely to go up more than they're likely to go down given the federal government's current fiscal policy.
Yeah, obviously we've got the case of the capital gains. Have you done any research on that impact at all?
We certainly have. I mean, the federal government's recent move to change the capital gains inclusion rate is probably one of the most damaging things that could be done when it comes to growth. That makes it more expensive in Canada to innovate, to invest, to create growth in the economy. The economic literature is quite clear that capital taxes are among the most damaging forms of taxation. So that's a concerning policy development, but one among many, which is why we shouldn't be surprised at Canada's diminished growth prospects, although we should be quite concerned.
Yeah, the point that you're making is really even if the capital gains inclusion rate changes didn't occur, we'd still be in a pickle when it comes to our tax policy. Is that right?
Absolutely. If you look at personal income taxes, Canada is largely uncompetitive with the United States. And as I mentioned, particularly at the upper end, 8 of 10 provinces in Canada, for example, have top marginal tax rates that are higher than every single U.S. jurisdiction. And on average, the median Canadian jurisdiction is about 12 percentage points higher than the median U.S. jurisdiction. So we're talking a difference of thousands of dollars a year in income tax paid. And the research is also quite clear that people that make good money create jobs. They tend to be entrepreneurs. They tend to be innovators, and they can locate wherever they want. And so Canada needs more of these people if we want to turn around our growth crisis.
I'm presuming that the outliers when it comes to that are Alberta and Saskatchewan. Is that right?
That's correct. But even Alberta and Saskatchewan are largely uncompetitive with a lot of the United States.
Yeah, interesting. Alex Whalen, we're going to take another brief break. We'll be back at you with some more questions back after these messages.